Persona 3 Reload comes out tomorrow, and in my hype I've been peeking at social media and how it's being covered by recipients of early copies, and holy shit. Like, it's common to believe that the opinion of these husks of human beings are paid off by developers, and that journalists can barely play games to begin with, and can't muster the courage to form something more than a murmur of the opinions that they're told to give. But at this point, I'm fully convinced that the people that got to play these games early are bottom feeder interns of their respective companies. If your game reviews are so bad that you're making IGN's review look good, you're doing something wrong. A lot of popular figures in the Persona community were not provided with early copies, and it mostly only went to companies, and so unfortunately, people we actually trust who have built careers on talking about these games are silenced, and instead we have the big evil corporations that are too scared to provide anything more than a murmur of valid criticism are the ones that got review codes. And the reviews us fans got, well, we're borderline pathetic. We get it. Look, most people have played Persona 5. It's a genre-defining JRPG. However, using it as a comparison point for fucking everything Atlus puts out is borderline lazy. It's just like IGN's It Makes You Feel Like Spider-Man or Batman or Sonic, or fuck it, it makes you feel like a marsupial collecting Wampa fruit. It would be like saying Shin Megami Tensei 5 feels like Persona 5 without the heart, or that Soul Hackers 2 feels like Persona 5 without the social links. Well, Sex With Your Mom feels like Persona 5 without the filler. The point I'm making is that games journalists have not a fucking clue what they're talking about. Which leads me into the main point of this video. Games journalists have no idea what made Persona 3 work. So let's look to two different sites that would have more success writing a better review by having monkeys on type. Actually, no. I think they'd have better success by having people that actually enjoy JRPGs write their review. For example, Rock Paper Shotgun's Persona 3 Reload review, a high school reunion better left in the history books. RPS's review begins with the reviewer stating, "I'm new to the franchise, so if you aren't new, then my opinions aren't for you, and you're better off elsewhere." Unfortunately, Mr. Reviewer, being new to something does not make you immune to criticism, and if you are new to JRPGs, frankly, I don't think you should be the one trusted to inform players about this remake. Ideally, it should be someone who knows their way around a Xenoblade or a fantasy of the final kind. That should be the type of person who should be providing their should you buy perspective. I find their comparisons of the One More system to Pokemon's combat a very simple yet very wrong description, and I really don't think calling combat mindless is not a good way to say something becomes almost nature or is well implemented. Complaining that combat animations cannot be skipped to me personally shows that the reviewer really shouldn't be reviewing JRPGs, considering that most of the appeal of modern JRPGs is how their animations are handled. For example, what makes the combat of a game like SMT5 so satisfying is the amount of effort that went into animation work. Attacks aren't just these binary interactions. Rather, they're these distinct and impactful blows. The Nahabino is a perfect example. His exclusive attacks have a lot of work put into the sound and animation work, and are instead these beautiful spectacles. At the end of the day, attacks all ultimately accomplish the same thing, but it's the visual and auditory feedback to the player that sets them apart from each other. To simplify them to such a degree feels disrespectful to the artists behind the effort. To say it's baffling that you can't skip them is a spit in the face to the people behind the art of the combat design. This dude also fucking hates fusing Persona, so it stands to reason that they may not like the genre as a whole. While that's okay, I don't think they should be the one reviewing this kind of game before it's released. I mean, the community as a whole is analyzing these reviews for any and everything. And this guy dislikes the general basics of JRPG dungeon crawling, collecting Persona, fusing Persona, long boss fights. It seems like the basic mechanics isn't something the reviewer gels with. And that's fine. Not everyone has to like this genre of game, but you're trying to convince me this guy was the best fit to review this game? Nuh-uh. So, we've seen a review by a journalist who shouldn't be analyzing the genre. Dude's a fucking battle royale aficionado. Hey, Joker for Fortnite, am I right, folks? Anyways, let's see what Polygon has to say about Reload. Those guys are typically good. Typically. So, okay. Polygon's review is called Persona 3 Reload Chases Persona 5 and Stumbles.
Persona 3 was always a bit of a black sheep.
Okay.
It established the foundation for the RPG series we know today.
Okay.
But its oppressive ambience and bleak storylines were a far cry from the flash and verve of the games that followed.
Are you fucking kidding me? Persona 4 is a game about murder, and Persona 5 has amount of dark topics. As a matter of fact, I've met people who say the idea of sexual assault being within the first act of the game was enough of a turn-off for them to not give the game a chance. Even I find the Kaneshiro arc disturbing enough with its implications of failure. It makes me uncomfortable. The answer, or FemC not being included, is a valid criticism. However, I don't think a fancy new engine or any reworks can fix the 25-hour unnecessary slog of a campaign that the answer is. And unfortunately for Atlus, they set the bar way too high for FemC. Personally, I would have liked FemC as much as Twitter. However, increasing my immersion by being a female character is enough. But the standards of a whole new set of social links, soundtrack, and extra school trip, if they just wanted to model swap and pronoun swap the pro tag, fans wouldn't be satisfied. I would, but most wouldn't. So chances of FemC were second to none from the start. But the ultimate version of P3 that people want is not what Reload is going to be due to it lacking that content, but for all we know, they could always do DLC. I wouldn't be happy about it, because one day, that shit'll be all lost media. Can they stop mentioning Persona 5? P3 came out 10 years before. This is a remake of it, with improvements that were seen within Persona 4, SMT, and Devil Survivor before Persona 5. Yes, it has its influences. It's also their highest selling game, but to credit any change to Persona 5 is, as I've said, it's lazy. The only two things that can be directly credited is Baton Pass and text messages. What, are you also playing with the Phantom Thieves outfits and you're accidentally calling Junpei Ryuji and you're saying for real to yourself while you scoff at the truly inferior writing of Persona 3? It's so hard to take this review seriously. He said Persona 5 the same amount of times as he said Persona 3! In conclusion, we've seen a guy who doesn't like Persona, and a guy that likes Persona 5 a little bit too much. To expect Persona 3 Reload to be the same game as Persona 5 or crediting any or all of its successes to Persona 5 is wrong. Personally, I'm a massive fan of Persona 4 Golden, and I don't like Persona 5 that much. Not because it's not Persona 4, I dislike it for reasons like its repetitive soundtrack, its cookie-cutter characters, and its themes. Just didn't resonate with me. I don't refuse to put down the other Persona games in the franchise just because it's different from 4. Each game is different, they have their own flaws. People typically judge Persona 4 just because of its long-winded prologue or its tendency to have filler due to its conversations and school trips. Persona 5 has strong themes of sexual abuse, extortion, and to some, that's off-putting, considering some people may have been abused by an authority figure. And so Persona 3, what's its core themes? Loss. Becoming stronger from your life experiences, moving on from death, or growing from learning the truth. Fundamentally, Persona 5 is about sticking it to society, while Persona 3's main theme is the woes of society. If you ask me as someone who's actually played these games, I highly anticipate Reload's release. Sure, the idea that mechanics from Persona 5 have been adapted to Reload scares me shitless, considering the lack of difficulty or challenge that Persona 5 Royal presents. I can only hope that they have compensated and changed the game to reflect these new mechanics, like a lack of multiple weapon types, or baton passing, or party member control. The tactics menu was a crucial mechanic within Persona 3, and having seen it be neutered due to the skill issue and complaints of many players is disappointing. The One More system has been refined and reworked over the past 18 years. Let's hope Reload carries the torch forward with challenging and engaging gameplay. I hope and pray the legacy of Reload is not carried by the reviews of these clowns, considering one of them can't get in bed with a JRPG, and the other can't stop inhaling the spunk fumes of Persona 5's panties.